614 Startups Nation, welcome to another episode of the 614 Startups Podcast. I fashion myself a marketing and branding guy, and I have a very special guest, somebody who does marketing and branding for a living. Not like me, just faking the funk, right? A real professional. I have Elspeth Paige-Sack as my guest today. Welcome, Elle.
Thank you, Elio. Nice to see you.
That was a good try on that name, right?
You did it. You nailed it.
Okay, perfect.
You can call me Elspeth for the rest of the call, but we could go to Elle.
Yeah. Let's go with Elle. My name is Elio, so I have the EL thing going for me, and my daughter is Elia, and so we call her Ellie. So there's a lot of L's in this episode, right?
Meant to be.
Yeah, it feels like destiny. All right, and you are the founder of Hunter Marketing, is that correct?
I am. I am the founder, and I claim to be the Chief Engagement Officer, CEO, Chief Engagement Officer.
I like it. I want to dig into what that means, but before we do that, we got to get into your personal kind of professional background, how you got into this space. So go ahead.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I have been a professional in Central Ohio for, I'm just going to say, more than 2 decades. I don't have to say how old I am, right? I always have described my professional background in kind of a fun way, where about 30% of my background has been in really successful sales. In fact, I'm a badass salesperson. The other 70% has been in marketing. I'm a kick-ass marketer. I think I'm a kick-ass marketer because I'm a badass salesperson, or I'm a badass salesperson because I'm a kick-ass marketer. And so,
is that possible though? Can
100%.
You be both? All right, we're gonna challenge that. We're gonna challenge that. We'll see.
I challenge you to find someone to say that Elle is not a kick-ass marketer or a badass salesperson.
Okay, well, I like it.
I'm not your average Jane, you know. Okay. And so I think that why I bring that up about me versus going into like where I've worked and what I've done. At one point, I was a pizza pimp for a couple years. We can talk about that.
Okay.
I'm someone who likes to put themselves in the shoes of the customer, of my customers' customers. I like to think through the lens of the experience. I'm a storyteller at heart. And so thinking through from my customer's perspective, my client's perspective of like, what are their goals? How are they trying to reach these people, to sell them a pizza, get them to ride a bus, buy insurance? How do I do that in an interesting and creative way, but also thinking from a goal perspective in really making their dollars work as hard as I can? And so that's why I share with you that kind of split brain that I have.
All right. Well, you don't become kick-ass, right, without being bad at something first and then working your way through and getting better over time. So we're not going to name jobs because I don't feel like you want to give your chronological work history, right? That's not what this show is about. We want to talk about those experiences that shaped you. So let's talk about kind of worst, best experiences in the sales world, right? What are kind of early attempts at doing sales and what did you learn? And then where did you find that you really hit your stride, right? What environment did you find like, wow, I love sales and this is what I want to do?
Yeah. So I come from car dealers in Massachusetts.
Nice.
And
used cars or new cars?
You pick
Okay.
either one.
All right.
With a big background in Chevrolet. I actually was on a conversation earlier today, recalling a memory from when I was just a wee pup, back in the 80s when they had those big monster trucks out there. And I remember my dad getting the big monster trucks to come to his dealership and just being like, oh, just this like wow moment. But so when I graduated from college, all through undergrad, pre-Frappuccino, I worked for Starbucks, and I loved working for Starbucks. Some of my best friends today are people that I met being a barista back in like 1996. Good energy, fun. And I actually helped open a lot of Starbucks, including in Central Ohio when I moved here. But working at Starbucks out of college, my dad was like, "What are you doing? Like, what are you going to do?" And so he challenged me to go sell cars. And I was in Columbus. My dad was in Massachusetts. So he didn't have like a good like pulse of what Central Ohio was like. And so as he was doing research, so he kind of challenged me to go get a job at a car dealership. He was like, "You got to go sell cars. It's either going to make you learn that you either love to sell or you don't want to sell."
Mm-hmm.
And the challenge he gave me had some good financial incentives to do either well if I could, and if not, no big deal. I would just make whatever I made because he was going to match whatever I made at whatever dealership I landed at.
Nice.
He got to pick the dealership. So I lived in the short north, and he picked a dealership. I won't say the name, but he picked a dealership all the way up over 270 north, where I was selling big dually diesel trucks and Jeeps, and I loved it. Loved it. I was
Hmm.
the only female working at the dealership, um, and it just was so much fun. And um, it was hard, like going out in the winter and shoveling snow off windshields. It wasn't it wasn't like a glamorous job, but it was a fun job. And
I can imagine, and I mean, the customer pulls up on the lot, you size them up. Hey, is this a buyer? Is this a shopper? Yeah, I know the vibes, right? Like, should I go out there? Should I hit this one hard? Did I make my quota? What do I need to do to
yeah.
close this sale? But let me ask you a question, right? You said you're great at sales. Do people like to be sold, or do they like to buy?
uh people so I'm a closer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm someone, like I take your hand and I listen and I follow you on the journey. I pick up all the little nuggets you leave behind for me and I put them in my bag, and right when we've hit our sweet spot, I introduce you to what you've been looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people that work with me from a sales perspective, like I integrity is a driver for me. I'm honest. I'm not looking to blur lines. Things are pretty black and white with me. Um, but I enjoy the experience. So I moved from selling cars to selling homes to, so having that, like, I also sold BMWs at one point in my career, and so the guy would come on the lot and want to have that 5 series, but he really couldn't afford it. So making sure that as I brought him through that buying experience, that he could see you can't afford the 5, but you can afford a BMW in that 3 series, like, and having that amazing great experience. And so taking something that might be not a pleasant thing, or maybe doesn't have a great like reputation, like car salespeople are gonna swindle me, or take advantage of me, or am I getting the best price? Like I made it my mission to make sure that it felt fun. You understood that, like, I'm not playing brain games. So to answer your question, I think people enjoy buying things with me on the journey, because
Yeah. So that
I
was my
enjoy
little
selling.
sales quiz. Did you see how I did that there? I
Yeah.
took you, okay, you're the bomb salesperson. I took you on a little sales quiz there to test out your skills. All right. But I want to understand how you made the jump from salesperson working for someone else to picking up some marketing skills that allowed you to start your business. But we're up against a break. So hold that thought. We'll be right back. Folks, this is the 614 Startups podcast. I'm with Elspeth Paige-Sack of Hunter Marketing. We'll be right back. This episode is brought to you by Rev One. Rev One's mission is to help entrepreneurs build great companies. As you navigate the waters of business entrepreneurship, you don't have to go it alone. A strategic partnership with Rev One connects innovators to the talent, customers, space, and funding you need when you need it. Get started with Rev One Startup Studio by visiting rev1ventures.com to learn more. Again, the website is rev1ventures.com. Support for 614 Startups comes from Hairdrop. Never visit the beauty supply store again. Order your beauty products from the Hairdrop app and have them delivered in an hour or less. Hairdrop is like DoorDash for beauty products. Get your hair care, grooming tools, hair extensions, and more when you need them to ensure you look and feel your best at all times. Available for download from both the Apple and Google Play stores. Get a beauty supply store in your pocket by visiting hairdrop.app and have your beauty delivered today. 614 Startups Nation, welcome back. I'm continuing my conversation with Elle Paige-Sack of Hunter Marketing. All right, let's talk about the transition. How'd you go from salesperson, adding the marketing component, and then starting your own company?
So I will give you the shortest version of this really great long romantic story of mine. I ended up working for a media company as their national restaurant account executive and selling advertising. And in that role, I began working with quick service restaurants. And in that role, I ended up working with a big blue chip brand pizza company. And the franchisee that was running that group really had some serious brand issues. Uh, they just weren't selling a lot of pizza. And I had a lot of really great ideas about how I could help him sell pizza, from thinking about partnership marketing to retail promotions to loyalty marketing. And at one point, we hit a wall where he was like, can you do this for me? And it wasn't in my job description to do. And it was like, I would love to help you grow your social media, but I'm just your ad salesperson. Well, about a month later, I became his marketing director and got to go all in. And that was when I really flipped, and I realized that most salespeople actually are also really great marketers for the most part, because we have to be a little bit creative in how you approach things, and that creativity is marketing. In
Mhm.
my perspective, I could tell you a whole long story of a girlfriend of mine who is in marketing, who would be wickedly insulted if I ever um, said that she was a salesperson, because it's not how she thinks of herself. Whereas I embrace that part of who I am and what I do, and really it is a huge part of what we do as marketers. But anyway, so working with this pizza brand, I really got to like spread my wings, and all my peacock feathers came out, and I found all my passions, from partnership marketing and negotiations, sponsorship negotiations, local store marketing, retail marketing, you name it. I fell in love with it. And after almost 6 years of doing it, I woke up one morning and was like, I did it. I negotiated huge partnerships with the NHL and MLS and NFL. I was on an NFL marketing committee. I worked with every school in the district. I knew every nonprofit. We were selling lots of pizzas. I was literally a pizza pimp. But where do you go from there? And so I left. And it took me about 5 years to get the courage. And it was after a 15-year journey to get to become a mom, when I was pregnant with my daughter. And I realized in the spring of 2019 that if I wasn't going to be with her full time, then I wanted to be doing something that would make her really proud and that I loved to do. And I'm so thankful that, one, I got to become a mom to an amazing, healthy daughter. But number two, I finally had the courage to start Hunter Marketing.
Now, what year is this?
2022.
So wait a minute. Hunter Marketing is like what, less than a year old?
She is just over 2 years old.
Okay.
She was born in September of 2019,
Uh-huh.
the agency, and we have been rocking and
Okay.
rolling since. So we're almost two.
Okay, perfect. All right. So you start this company 2 years ago. 2019 is kind of a good time to start a company, right? Nothing kind, we're not in the middle of a recession.
No,
Stock market is going up, up and up. There are a lot of things happening in your life.
I was only super
And
pregnant. Like I was only like 35 weeks pregnant, but
yeah, and so you walk in, you tell your employer, hey, look, I'm off to the next one. Why start a marketing agency? Was it just looking at the practical, hey, this is what I have skills in, I'm going to convert it? Or as you were going through the process of what kind of business you were going to start, why did you land on an agency?
I landed in an agency because from my pizza pimp days, I had exposure to all different kinds of agencies, including some of the most well-renowned agencies. And from some of the partnership marketing that I got to do, I watched some of the agencies that supported those partners. And I always just had this feeling of like, man, I could do this so much better and be more affordable and be more creative and really help my clients like with their key marketing challenges, and their and in a fun way, a different way, a creative way, a more affordable way. And I just didn't have the courage until I got pregnant. And so with Hunter, what I wanted to do was to create an environment where I could deliver joy, and not just externally, but internally too. And to create a work environment for the people that work at Hunter where they feel empowered, where they are empowered to be themselves, empowered to be creative, empowered to have a voice, um, empowered to do phenomenal work, where it was a safe, trusted space. And maybe that sounds like, well, that's where everyone should work. But I've worked at a lot of places, and I've met a lot of people, and I've learned a lot about what not to do. And I've had some great role models who've taught me some great things that I could pull in to do. So the internal culture of Hunter for me is just as important as the money that we make with the clients that we work for, because they are a part of my equation to deliver joy. And I love it. I love marketing. I love everything about storytelling, media buying, content creation, social media, partnership, every aspect of it. with the right clients. And so owning my own business, I get to be really picky about the verticals that I work in. That brings me joy. If I'm not going to be with my daughter, I want to do work that I care about, that I get excited about. Like, I know how to get people to eat pizza. I know how to get butts in seats on transit vehicles. Like,
Yeah, so you get them to eat pizza and then they need 2 seats for their butts. Okay, I got it. All right, so
exactly. You see where I'm going, right? It all makes sense.
you listen, you're hitting it from all angles. I appreciate that. All right, so since you help your clients, define their brand, define their messaging, I'm sure your elevator pitch for Hunter Marketing is just going to knock me out of my seat, right? So what's the value proposition for Hunter Marketing?
So we work with our hearts. We are compassionate and proud of the work that we do. And I recently was speaking with someone and was like, well, your agency's only 2 years old. And I was like, yeah, Hunter's only 2 years old, but I've been in this market for almost 2 decades. And, the NHL All-Star game just finished. And that's when I was having this conversation. So it made a little bit more sense. But like, I have purposely picked like the all-star team of marketers to join Hunter. And so I have some of the best creative thinkers that work with their hearts, that genuinely care about each other and the work that we do. And that's what makes us different.
Yeah, okay. So, but what can you do for me is what I'm asking.
Oh, what do you need? We are a full service agency. So, from helping you come in and understand like your actual brand and your brand presence, and if you don't, helping you develop that brand strategy, including taglines, logos, and then from there it just rolls into all different kinds of work, whether it's media buying, design, content creation, website development, social media, experiential marketing, influencer marketing, you name it, we can do it. We are storytellers.
Yeah. And so who am I to like, who's your ideal client? Who are the folks that walk through your door when you say, hey, this is the business I love to help? Again, like you said, you guys lead with your heart. You want to pick the right customer. Who's that ideal customer for Hunter Marketing?
The most ideal customer are people who operate similarly.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have, which is a super scary thing I'm going to tell you, but I actually have fired a client because we just weren't a good match. And the work was great, the money was great, but we just weren't a good match, a cultural fit. And so businesses who seek to make an impact to make the world a little bit better. That's why I'm really passionate about mobility, and the ways in which it supports our community. But make to keep it super simple. I I want to work with kind people who want to do good things. I want to work with people who respect that marketing is valuable, um, and understand that I do my best work when I can immerse myself in their culture, in their brands, in their goals, and maybe not own all of the parts of marketing, but maybe own all the parts of marketing, but really can go 50 feet above the business and be a part of the team.
Okay, awesome. So when we come back from this next break, we're going to get practical, right? We're going to talk to those early stage founders who are thinking about, hey, I got this product release coming. I want to get it in the hands of the right users, or they might be in the hands of the right users. How do we create raving fans? All of that stuff that needs to happen to go from this idea to start to scaling your business. All right, Elle, hang out with us. You guys hang out with us too. We'll take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back. Support for the 614 Startups podcast comes from Book and Street. Book and Street provides finance and accounting solutions for startups in the Midwest and beyond. From strategic financial support to bookkeeping and everything in between, they've got your back office covered. Let their experienced team of finance and accounting professionals help your startup get it right from the start. Learn more at bookandstreet.com and set up your free 30-minute consultation with their team today. Support for the 614 Startups podcast comes from Nationwide. Nationwide's mission is to protect people, businesses, and futures with extraordinary care. To help fulfill that mission, Nationwide is looking to invest its $350 million venture capital investment fund in insurtechs that will help them create new and exciting products and solutions to meet the needs of their customers. If you're interested in partnering with Nationwide's venture capital team, visit nationwideventures.com to learn more. Again, the website is nationwideventures.com. Nationwide is on your side. Elle, I'm ready. I'm ready for the masterclass. All right. I want to sit at the feet of the expert and learn from you. Our audience consists of early stage founders, a lot of them building their very first business, kind of like you 2 years ago. And they're thinking about their brand, they're thinking about their marketing strategy. What are some of the basics, the foundation that a business needs to think about when they think branding and marketing?
For sure. Planning and goal setting are really important. And good marketing can kill a bad business. You need to have your business in a good place, because if you do, when you decide it's time to do marketing, when you either on your own or you're contacting someone like me or any other creative, you need to be prepared that marketing works. When you ask your customers to do something, they do it if they trust you. Like, email marketing is an amazing tool if you have the right strong subject headlines and you have the right content and the right imagery and you're inviting that person. But if you get them to come to you and you're not ready for them, you're going to be in trouble. So creating a really good business plan of, where do you want to be? Where do you want to grow to? And then be prepared for them to come.
And you know what? Let me stop you there. Because you
Yeah.
just said something that Americans are notoriously poor at, which is planning and short-sightedness. You just challenged people who oftentimes are so passionate about the idea that is the primary driver of early stage. Like, I want to solve this problem. But you're asking them to step back and do some planning. So what are the key components of a plan? What are some things that make up that plan that they're supposed to put together?
Absolutely. Set some expectations of goals. And goals could be, depending on what you do, growth, sales, new clients, whatever that looks like. Set some goals for yourself and then think about that return on your investment. So let's just pretend that you have all of your stuff is set up and you are ready to begin driving in business. You need to look at your budget, because money is something that it's just a reality, right? When it comes to marketing, whether you're buying media, paying for creatives, building a website. I have an initiative called the Madison Rose Initiative, which is named after my daughter, and it's a service that I do, and I'm not plugging it. It's just I'm telling this because I'm going to get back to where you're going. The Madison Rose Initiative is something that I offer to other minority women-owned businesses. That they can apply to get like up to $2,500 of free marketing from me every month. And I choose at least one or two businesses every month to offer those services to. The majority of people that I meet through the Madison Rose Initiative want me to come in and like get their TikTok channel going and get their social media set up. And I'm like, do you have a website? Well, there are some practical foundational things that you really need to have in place. So when you start thinking about, like, even make it simple, and I'm not trying to like, anyway, keep it simple. Like, when you're inviting people to a party, what are the foundational things you think of like, what am I going to feed them? What are they going to drink? What time are they going to come? How long are they going to stay? What are they going to do when we're here? Same thing with your business. When you're introducing yourself, how did they find out about you? Where did they go? Having a really good website, I would say, for the majority of people listening to this, is a really important thing.
Let me
And
hold you there. You said really good website. We'll talk about the components of the website, but I want to hit one more time on the planning thing before we shift to kind of the first thing that a customer usually sees of yours as they're doing their research is more than likely your website and what is a good website. So on the issue of planning, it sounds like planning is not when you think like, I want to start here and I want to get there. It's probably best to start with where you want to get and reverse engineer. So a lot of times for an early stage founder, the goal might be get my first 10 users.
Mhm.
Then you can reverse engineer from that point, like, well, where are your best users? What are the forums they participate in, etc. Before you even think about, oh, I want to go start a TikTok channel. Am I tracking with what you're saying about that planning process?
You don't need me. You got it. That's exactly it.
Okay.
And if you prepare for those 10 users that you need to have, and you really think about, like, Where are they? How accessible are they to me? That's when you start planning. And that's where budget comes in. That's where timing comes in. That's where setting expectations come in. And then what kind of support do you need that you can't do yourself?
All right. So I have my plan in place. I apply for the Madison Road. Well, female owned, minority owned. Okay, maybe I qualify. Okay, so I
Yeah,
get the
you did.
Madison
Yeah.
Road Rose opportunity. So I'm meeting with you, and you go through. I give you my goal is maybe I want to get to 2,000 downloads a week of the podcast. Right. That's strategically that's what I want. Right.
Yeah.
And then I know a website is important, but do you find yourself as you're talking to people having to pull them away from the platforms that they want to be big on versus the platforms that the businesses really need to engage their target customer? Do you find yourself having those conversations?
Yeah, sometimes. I think that like selling cars, like I'm always listening, right? And I'm listening to who you are and what you're doing, but I'm an expert at this in a lot of different capacities. And I want you to be successful. I'm very competitive. So helping you do the best job that I can mean sometimes showing you that maybe there's a different route to get to our final destination. But I always listen to my clients because, you know, this is their business, their industry, and maybe some things that they're passionate about maybe are worth considering. Like I have a brand new client that has a long allegiance to a local media company. I don't know that it gets the best ROI, but ROI might not be the number one driver for everything that they're doing from a media
Mm,
perspective. That overall branding can too, and it's their money. And so if I can do a good job and help turn that like mediocre tactic into a really great tactic by having maybe stronger calls to action or having a better looking ad, maybe buying it on different days of the week. So I am flexible in the tactics, but I definitely, if there's a priority, and it's not just with the Madison Rose Initiative, but I find the Madison Rose Initiative clients, because they really do need marketing support, they always go to kind of the more flashy things that they think are going to be right versus going back to the
yeah.
basics of like optimizing content on your website, being searchable. Have you claimed your Google listing if you actually have a brick and mortar space? Like just some foundational things that need to happen in that planning process.
I know exactly what you mean about that client who has the affinity for the local media company because early on in a lot of entrepreneurs' lives, we have this thing that means success. For some people, it's like being on the cover of Forbes. And like for some people, it's like I have an ad in the local magazine, right? For me, that thing is I want to put 614 Startup Stadium on my high school stadium. Like sponsored, it has no zero ROI. If your marketing person comes to me and asks me, why am I doing it? I'm like, that's what success means to me. I built something and I sponsor the scoreboard. All right. So let's talk about
Let's
website
do it.
because,
Let's
yeah,
do it.
let's get there. Right.
Let's do it.
All right. So let's talk about
Yep.
websites that convert. I see websites all the time. Some of them just feel intrinsically like they're built well. Right. What are the key components of a website that converts?
I think it all is dependent on your industry. So if you're actually selling anything through your website, we call that e-commerce, right? And that's a very different, more transactional website as opposed to a site where I'm kind of getting to know you and I'm researching you. This might sound kind of silly, but in my history, even when it comes to being a pizza pimp, one of the first places that people like to go is they want to learn about you. They want to see what you look like. They want to learn about your team. They want to learn about your accolades, your history.
Yeah, I'm a about us page guy.
Yeah. I
Yeah, I
mean, we
go
just
homepage
do.
about us and then backtrack.
So before we even get to the website, like, or in addition to the website, like reviews, Google reviews, Yelp reviews, whatever, reviews are a real big thing. People trust reviews online from strangers, even maybe more than they trust their own family. So having that brand reputation management is something that's important too that we can come to if we can in this conversation. But I just want to make sure that I said that out loud. So yes, the about page, because we want to know who we're working with. We want to know what they look like. We want to know how they talk about themselves. They want to know what they've done. Maybe as we're even balancing out who to work with, if there are two truck towing companies or nail salons or restaurateurs, like we're comparing, right? Who do we want to give our money to? Um, a good website is reflected of your brand, and your brand is your essence, your name, your logo, the colors you use to talk about, to show the services that you do, the imagery you choose to use. I always lean towards using real imagery if at all possible, as often as possible, because it's real, right? We want real experiences. We want direct experiences. When you have someone come to your website, I would be challenge me all day long that you're more impressed by a website that just goes down rabbit hole, rabbit hole, rabbit hole, and there's so much content. Challenge me that that's a better website than something that's super simple and to the point, easy to navigate. I understand what you do, and I understand the flow of the ways in which you want me to go through your website until I do whatever you're asking me to do. If that's to contact you, if that's to buy something from you, whatever that looks like. Your website is your invitation, inviting someone into your brand, and it should be your user experience. If you want to have it be bright and bubbly, if you want it to be black and white and drive you to the point. The other thing about websites that is really critical to put in the back of your mind, in addition to how it looks and representing your brand and making sure it's on point, because that's really important, is to stick to the integrity of your brand. Who you are is very important, just like your social security number, right? But then on the other side of that is something called SEO. Search engine optimization on your website is critical. And what that means for you is, as you are writing that website, making sure that you're using terminology consistently that talks about what you do. So 614 startup, I want to see that all over your website. I want it to be written as much as you possibly can without being insulting. Because when someone is searching for startups, when someone is searching for pizzas in Pickerington, I want you to be able to be found organically. The difference between SEM, search engine marketing, is that paid piece where people are paying to be more visible, but they're paying to cut through the clutter of just all of those optimized content sites. And so as you start thinking about the content that you're creating, and by content, I mean that could be social media, white papers, reviews, all of that stuff helps build that brand, which you want then to travel back to your Mecca or your website. Your website is where all of that's going to be housed. And so having a really good website, I'm not saying you have to spend tens of thousands of dollars, you don't. But having a good website that is on brand, that it communicates who you are and what you do and what you want the customer to do with you, is very, very important.
Yeah, and I hear that, right? So that's the first impression, right?
Yeah.
That's like, I'm going on a date. Like when that person sees me for the first time, those 5-7 seconds or whatever it is, that person makes a conclusion about you. You want your website to be that first impression. But now we go on the date, right? I at least got you on the date. Now I have to have a conversation with you. What are the places, right, within brand strategy where brands should be having that communication with your audience? Because reviews are a conversation with your audience, reputation management, social media, etc. I want to dig into that conversation piece when we come back from our final break. All right. So hang in there, Elle. Thank you so much for all this valuable information. And guys, thank you for hanging in there with us. We'll be right back after our final break. Support for 614 Startups comes from Color Coded Labs. It's time for a better career in tech. Introducing Color Coded Labs, a 16-week boot camp that does more than just teach basic code. It's a program designed to help you actually get a career in tech. At Color Coded Labs, we've removed all the barriers to help you learn the skills you need to start a career you love in weeks, not years. All designed for people of color by people of color. Apply now at colorcodedlabs.com. All right, guys, let's all be honest with ourselves. How many times have you needed to get an oil change, clean your car, or get a tire rotation, and you've put it off for weeks on end? We're all guilty of it. My friends over at Vaunt set out to make delayed car care a thing of the past and created the most convenient and affordable way to care for your car. All you have to do is, 1, book your service and desired pickup location. 2, drop your keys with a certified Vaunt driver who picks up your car for you. And 3, your car will be serviced and delivered back to you within 3 hours. From now on, the only thing you have to worry about is where you're going and who you're going with. Look, guys, I'm telling you, this is the future. Try out Vaunt, VOHNT.com, and use promo code 614 Startups for 20% off. All right. So conversation with your customers. Let's talk about that. Why is that important?
no matter what you do, you have competitors. You do. And maintaining your brand reputation, maintaining your relevancy, um, with whatever you do is how you're going to stay visible. And you got to stay visible because you got to stay open. You want to grow no matter what you do. And so there are lots of ways that you can pivot and grow your business and grow that audience and grow those customers, whatever you're looking for. And it's called strategy. And we're going to go back to planning. So that business strategy that you're going to come up with, and like you said, Ilya, we're going to work backwards. Like, how much money do we want to make? How many employees do we want to have? Do we want to open an actual office? Like, what are some of those bigger goals? Because those goals are going to be what are going to drive you from a marketing perspective of where you need to go to get there. Um, Social media is, I mean, in the dating world, and I've been married for 17 years, so I haven't dated in a long time, but I've been watching from afar. Everyone talks about like their social media pages, and no one's on Facebook, but yet everyone's on Facebook, Tinder, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn, you name it. You want to make sure that, as important as you hold the integrity of your brand and your website, that whatever you put on social media has to feel right. It has to feel relevant. And shame me if you want for saying this, but I am so anti any businesses that put up a firework and say Happy 4th of July. What? Okay, got it. What does it have to do with your business and why I'm following your page and want to stay engaged with your content and your pages? Why be social if you don't have anything to talk about,
Yeah.
right? And so building those strategies and those plans of how do I use these mediums to get the business that I'm looking for? And it might not always be in social media, but having a little social media probably is important. But again, I wouldn't, it's not a prior, it's not the number one priority. And if you're going to do it, you have to do it right and you have to have a plan. Just don't post stuff to have a social media channel. It's not doing you any favors. Looking for opportunities to get into groups of like-minded people or industries that you're interested in being a part of is critical. So if you want to be around restaurateurs, you got to speak their language and you got to find the places they're going. If you want to be around the financial industry or the construction industry or the healthcare industry or diversity, equity, and inclusion, you need to insert yourself into those conversations. And there are lots of easy ways to do that, from chamber organization, business affiliations, networking. And in a virtual world, it's so different, right? But it also gives a lot more access.
Hmm.
Um, Again, it all comes from planning. And where do you want to go?
Yeah, I know. And so let's talk about voice, authentic voice. To the point you're trying to make about, or at least the point I'm hearing you're trying to make, is the 4th of July post feels like a pander unless you're like a fireworks company.
Right.
Like 4th of July, blow some ish up,
Yeah.
let's go. That's
Right.
authentic to it because you are blowing stuff up. You want your customer to blow stuff up. It's the one reason, one time a year, except New Year's Eve, when
Yeah.
people use another kind of firework to go off, right? But you want people to blow
Right.
stuff up, right? Let's
Right.
talk about the authentic voice. And I saw this with big businesses, particularly in 2020, in the wake of the George Floyd. It was like everybody felt like, regardless of what your business was all about, you had to say something. Or it comes around with Pride Month, everybody changes their logo. But is that really your authentic voice, right? And can the customers sniff it out? It's like it feels like a politician kind of, right? That's why people have that feeling about politicians. It's like, you're just saying this because you think that's what I want to hear. Let's talk about finding your authentic voice.
Well, you couldn't have said that any better. And it's the truth. For 4th of July, if you're going to post anything, post your team out having a barbecue or post that they're out walking their dogs and drinking a cold beer with their family, from a recruitment standpoint, that it's like, I want to work for a company that does that. Show that side of it. Just don't do something to do something, because it's going to be a miss every time because it's not you. Being authentic to your voice, especially when it comes to like outward facing external things that you're doing, you are your brand spokesperson, right? And you want to align yourselves with, again, like-minded organizations and people. And the longer you tell your story, the more you craft it, the more you can embrace your values, and you plan and have a strategy for the ways in which you want to leverage. Like, there could be a great opportunity for your business to talk about Women's History Month or Black History Month, And it doesn't have to be that you have a token female on your team and so that's what you're doing, but there could be a really great story in there about your industry and something in there that you embrace, but it has to be your story. um, that's what's going to make you stand out from the crowd and differentiate yourself. And again, it's a business thing, right? Like as we're talking about work, it is business. And um, when someone follows pages or aligns themselves with brands, like part of what I love about my Starbucks time is I got to watch this brand grow and what it meant to like have brand integrity and maybe even over almost convert themselves into that cult like world where people, they carry around a Starbucks cup that maybe doesn't even have a Starbucks coffee in it just because of how it looks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what you want. You want people to identify with you because they like you, they like what you stand for, they like what you represent, and that comes from your own essence of what you want your business to be. And don't go away from that, and don't worry about doing something like I started this off by telling you I'm not your average bear. Like there are some fantastic agencies in Central Ohio and in the nation, and I'm not competing with any of them. I'm just trying to do a good job to make my daughter proud and to do good work and deliver phenomenal results for my clients and my partners.
Yeah. So there's this, I don't know if it's a true story, but kind of a business mythical lore. The guy who starts the gold mine, digs like 6 feet from gold, quits, sells the mine. Somebody comes and digs 6 feet, like they dug 200 feet. Somebody digs six and finds gold. Let's talk about the consistency and testing required to find that message that resonates. Sorry about that. That's my phone going off. We might have to edit that out. But the consistency, right? And the rejection you're going to have to feel like, I think some people like they post something and then they don't get any likes and then they're like, social media doesn't work. The process by which you find that authentic voice, I think a lot of people think that they're going to find it on the first try. Let's talk about that evolution of the voice over time, right? And testing messaging. How do you approach that at your agency?
You got it. Well, one thing I will tell you right away is do not pay attention to likes. Just don't. Just don't pay attention to likes.
Psychologically, is that possible? You're trying to tell
100%.
human beings do not be human. We're social. If I post something and you don't like it, I automatically
Oh,
feel rejected. How do I overcome that?
trust me, my husband, like, we post similar pictures of the baby, and I'll have like 97 likes, and he'll have like 14, and he'll be like, I must have posted it at the wrong time of day. Like, who cares? Who
You
cares?
can't help it.
Who
That's how they have
cares?
us hooked.
Well, I'm telling you, don't pay attention to likes. And I'm telling that to you from a place of data. Like I'm also wickedly data driven and pay a lot of attention to data, especially because I buy so much media that it just happens, right? The reach of that media is probably a lot greater than you think. And that's what you want. You want the reach. You want people to see it. Doesn't matter if they like it. Don't worry about that. What you want to have is them share it. You want to see your followers grow. You want to see if there's a CTA in that message to buy that $10 pizza that you sold a ton of those $10 pizzas. Who cared if they liked it or not? But as you're developing your voice and your brand, and I can tell you even from watching Hunter grow as like baby Hunter, she's still just a toddler, right? But paying attention to how I'm going to market and how I want people to see my team and see the work that we do. And, um, you know, it's trial and error sometimes of there are some things like I go back even to like my own Facebook page from like 10 years ago that I cringed a little bit over, but it was my evolution, right? Maybe it was relevant at the time. My advice to everyone is to stay authentic to yourself. Don't post something because everyone else is posting. In fact, I had lots of big conversations around George Floyd with clients about how to not navigate that. And it really wasn't to pay attention to the Joneses. It was to do what feels right for your organization and with the people that you work with and with the brand. And some of those conversations were much bigger than others, but they were important to have, and they did change the trajectory of, for a big client in particular of mine, it positively changed the trajectory of the relationship that they had internally with the ways in which they handled that from a social media perspective.
All
um,
right, final question here. I want to put some numbers to marketing because marketing a lot of times is seen as an expense. Like I have to spend this money. Well, you have to spend money on a lot of things in your business. Marketing just happens to be one of them. And I think when your marketing goes from, in your mind, being an expense to more of an investment that actually you found a way to produce a return, it no longer becomes an expense. So let's talk about how you help people overcome that expense mindset, even very early in their business, setting aside a portion of their budget for marketing. And do you have like a best practice for what that percentage should be, no matter the size of the overall budget?
You got it. So marketing should deliver you a return. Marketing is, yes, maybe you're stroking a check for an ad or a website to be built or some creative to be done, but marketing should have a return on it. And going back to that planning, if you're looking at like what your expectations are, if we're only trying to get 10 clients and you said TikTok, TikTok, and I said, but we really need to be hyper focused and make those dollars work hard for you. Really pay attention to what you're spending money on and what the return is. And if you only have $2,500 for the year to market your business, don't buy one $2,500 ad. Don't do it. Think strategically about how you spend those dollars and look for opportunities that are more organic and partnership opportunities. But anyway, when it comes to budget, it should have a return. I like to say to my clients that it should have a 3-time return. So if you spend $1, you should get $3 back.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean when I say that is if you spend $400 on an ad and you're trying to sell pizza, you should at least make $1,200 worth of pizza, because we're purposely looking to get that to the right people at the right time to engage with you if you're looking for new clients or whatever that looks like. I always, especially with my Madison Rose Initiative clients, I always make sure that, again, that their business is good. And because good marketing can hurt a bad business, and that's the last thing you want to do. Have business be good. And if business is good and you're ready to start taking on clients, be very strategic and thoughtful about the cadence with which you do that, and test different things. Find a partner. If you don't feel confident doing it yourself, find a partner that you trust that can build a simple plan for you, and then test it and make sure it works. And don't keep I have heard I have lots of experience with people saying, we got to give it time. You got to give it time. Don't give it time. If it's not working, it's not going to work. There are some things like Google AdWords that you need to like build up, but those are inexpensive tactics, and that's a bigger part of business when you get that's the next level of marketing. But there are some tactics that take more time to get like those reviews to generate and for things to start seeing. But as soon as you start spending money, you should feel it in your business.
Wow.
But again, be very thoughtful about how you spend your money, because when you spend it, it's gone. And if you blow it out like you're at the casino, I don't know that you're going to always get the return. But if you're super thoughtful and pay attention to it, marketing will work for you. Have your ducks in order, have your things in place, have your website set up, have the business ready to take the customers that are coming in. Be offering strong call to actions that feel authentic to your brand. Like if you lose money on selling a $10 pizza, don't sell a $10 pizza to drive a bunch of traffic in. Don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So many gems there, Elle. Thank you so much for spending this time. We could have this conversation because each of the subjects that we covered is essentially a podcast in and of itself. So I love this great kind of introductory course to marketing and branding thinking for early stage startups. My biggest, I have a bunch of takeaways, but a few that really stand out is reverse engineer when it comes to marketing planning. Start with the goal in mind and then reverse engineer. Number 2 is that, marketing should produce an ROI. It's not just money that you're throwing to the wind. 3x is a good average, and then think really long and hard about the marketing strategies that have the potential to produce that 3x. And then your website, right, is the great first impression that you need. So if you're going to spend your time early on doing anything, create a website that converts. Do I have that right? Did I get the high points?
You got it. You're
All right.
hired. I must have done okay. I must have done okay today.
All right. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And folks out there, thank you so much for joining us. Hope to see you next time. Until then, peace. Support for the 614 Startups podcast comes from Bernstein Private Wealth Management's Columbus-based team of professional advisors. In a world where most investment managers look alike, Bernstein Private Wealth Management has evolved into an organization like no other. Some money managers look to add value after a business is sold, but Bernstein delivers proactive advice right from the start. Whether you're eyeing the exit or you've just launched, Bernstein is committed to your financial success. If you're interested in partnering with Bernstein on your entrepreneurial journey, visit bernstein.com to learn more. Again, that website is bernstein.com to learn more. Bernstein, fully invested in better outcomes.